Hello, everyone. Is Julian Quayle here yet? Not yet. Okay, not to worry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a few minutes past 7, so I think it's time that we got started. I think we have a few people still to join us, but we'll just crack on with some little housekeeping elements before the main meeting starts. First of all, thank you all for coming. It's amazing what the offer of cake will do on a rainy Wednesday night. This is always someone, Fiona. This is the annual meeting of Frome residents that Frome Town Council organises on your behalf, and as your mayor, it's my honour to be your chair for this evening. For those of us actually physically in the room, some little bits of housekeeping. The emergency exit is there in the corner of the room. The assembly point is on the far side of the car park out there. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right, and there's an accessible toilet out there to the right of the lift. You may have seen the slide as you came in about your mobile phones. If you could please turn them off, because we have a feeling that that may be what interferes with the live broadcasting equipment, because we invariably have a glitch or two. So call it experiment A. Paul Wynn here, the town clerk, is here to provide any advice. Sarah and Rachel over there are managing the questions board, looking at the participants, making sure everyone's happy and keeping our IT hopefully running smoothly. We're recording this meeting and it is also being live streamed on YouTube. Anyone who is attending on Zoom, do we have attendees on Zoom, Rachel, Sarah? Thank you, Adam. Nice to see you. Can you use your yellow hand for questions, and anyone else questions, just raise your hand. I think you've all got a copy of the agenda. The very first thing we need to do is to agree the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 6th of April 22, which seems like a lifetime away. So if anybody's got any challenges to that in their memory, well done you. Can I have a proposal that we accept those? Anita and Assessor. Thank you, Mark Dorrington. Okay, and with no... And do we need to vote on that, councillors? Everyone in the room, hands up to approve last year's minutes. I'm sure you've all read them thoroughly.
That's majority.
That looks like a majority. Thank you very much for that, everybody. So our first item of the evening is over to our current leader, Councillor Anita Collier, to take us on a little roller coaster ride through her year as leader.
Thank you, Sarah, and good evening, everyone. I love this meeting. I have to say it's my favourite meeting of the year because it's a lovely social evening. So really nice to see people. I just really want to look at, as we come to the close of this year, which is our first year in this administration, I wanted to go through with you so can I have the next slide, please? Sorry? You can't hear me? Is that better? Okay. So when we approached the election last year, we approached it in the knowledge that there was only going to be one ward contested because no other candidate stood against us. And we were fortunate yet again to be selected unanimously as a group of 17 independent councillors with no political agenda, just working solely for the benefit of Frome, and it's a really good place to be. Next slide, please. Our first task was to spend time looking at where we could focus our energies and passion. What was important to the town and where could we have the best impact? And once we established those priorities, we had to then turn them into a strategy.
Can we ask you to use that one instead? I think
Sure.
that's adding up.
Is that better? Can you all hear me now still? You're okay? No? Okay. So the things that we wanted to, as our priorities to start on, and this really was just a starting point, remember, there'll be lots of other things coming through in the next 4 or 5 years. But the things we wanted to begin work with were the football club, the cost of living crisis, the town centre, parks and open spaces, planning, and the climate and ecological emergency. Always bearing in mind, of course, that all our work should be mindful of things like participation and inclusivity, mental health and well-being, community engagement as much as possible, openness and transparency. But it's one thing to decide on what you'd like to do. It's an entirely different matter when it comes to delivering these ideas. And that's really, if we could have the next slide, please, where we rely very much on the knowledge, experience and skill of the council staff. We're very lucky in this council to have a team that knows about every aspect of our work, and with their know-how and enthusiasm, we're able to bring all these ideas to life. Next slide, please. On the football club, you'll know that the football club was in financial distress at the beginning of the year. But to support this valuable community asset, we paid off the debts and are working with them now to create a community benefit society that will help to create a stronger and more inclusive and more financially stable operation. It's still very much an ongoing process, but we will do everything we can to preserve this very precious and wonderful facility for Frome. Slide, please. So the cost of living. There's no doubt that with rising food and housing and energy costs, people really are feeling the pinch. With more people than ever using the food banks, people struggling to pay their bills and having to make choices even between eating and heating. We needed to work closely with all the agencies working in this town to offer a joined up approach, and most importantly, to inform people of where they could find help and advice. We've run workshops on offering advice on energy usage. We've worked with other people to support the recycling of IT equipment, offered winter warming packs, offered advice on healthy homes, and worked with anyone who is concerned about offering advice on money, housing, or legal matters. Next slide, please. On the town centre, I hope you will already have seen the changes we've already brought about to the marketplace. New planters and benches to make it an attractive and enjoyable place to sit. The return of a working fountain to retain the traditions of the town. And most importantly, we're building even stronger relationships with our town businesses, working alongside the Chamber of Commerce and Adventure and key players in the town. You may even have seen some of us out in force last week, councillors, staff, and the Frome litter pickers on a spring clean for Frome. We were clearing rubbish, painting walls, eliminating graffiti, washing the bus stops, and an awful lot more. So we've had some lovely feedback too, and hopefully with that feedback, it may well then become something we do again. Next slide, please. Parks and open spaces. Well, the environment team, including the rangers, do the most remarkable job for our estate. We get a lot of compliments about this. But it's not just about cutting the grass and planting trees and bulbs. It's about lots of other things like building picnic tables and benches, reciting the speed indicator device, inspecting play equipment, looking after our safety in all these open spaces, and helping out with many of the town events too. So a huge thanks to our rangers. They do an incredible job. Slide, please. Planning. We know that we don't have the final word on planning applications that come through this council, but we do get the chance to comment before it goes on to the planning authority. So we can help to influence any propositions that come through before it gets to that authority. Of course, that was Mendip. It will now be Somerset in the future. But we've seen some very large developments applying to come into the town, as you probably know. And we've watched them put through applications that don't adhere to the neighbourhood plan, that don't provide the types of housing that we need, that don't include enough employment space, and they certainly don't provide enough social or affordable housing. So we've set out to try and change that by having discussions with developers prior to their plans being submitted, and by stating the very minimum that we would be prepared to accept. This is already having an effect on what's being submitted. And even though it's not usual for a local council to behave in this way, especially if it's not a planning authority, I think it's already making developers realize that when we speak on behalf of the people of Frome, we have a very strong voice behind us. Next slide, please. Unitary asset and devolution. Or with a brand new unitary council in place, we've got a wonderful opportunity now to apply for some of our town's assets to be devolved to us. But we will only be successful if we can prove to Somerset that we can manage them in such a way that will create more profit for them, and at the same time, create a town that's more attractive to businesses and visitors alike. And I quote Bill Revens, the leader of Somerset, when he said, "We believe that power should be devolved to communities wherever possible. We believe in local decision-making." Yes, that does deserve a clap. We've also been heavily involved in piloting a local community network in Frome, looking at issues surrounding children and young people. And by working out ways to offer early intervention, we can then reduce the possibility of the families that might need to otherwise require a need for social services. And that, of course, helps to reduce the pressure on both Somerset services and their finances. Next slide, please. One of the most exciting things we've seen this year is the success of the bid for the lottery funding to create something called Green and Healthy Futures. It's a partnership between Frome Town Council, the Frome Medical Centre, and Adventure. And it's designed to improve health, climate, and well-being for people and the planet alike. We're looking at ways to encourage more physical activity, reduce carbon, improve well-being, and offer workshops for creative ideas on healthy ways to live. Next slide, please. I'm just going to quickly run through some of the things we've been engaged in this year. And it really will be a whistle-stop tour. But we actually, you may have noticed, introduced a speed indicator device, which has helped to reduce some of the the speeds in the town. And that's on a fortnightly rotating basis, at the moment being shared among 12 sites. But we just applied for a second one, which means that each of them will only have 6 sites to monitor, and therefore that will help across the town. We've introduced new planters and benches, as I've said, around the Boyle Cross. We've engaged schools in lots more walking and cycling activity. It wasn't that long ago we offered the children the chance to walk to Poland, our twin town, as we called it, not literally, but actually, instead of the 1,300 miles we were expecting them to do during the week, they actually achieved somewhere over 5,000 miles. So it was an incredible exercise and the children really engaged in it. We've done lots of fundraising and support for Ukrainian refugees, and a lot of that is still ongoing. We have on the staff now 2 Ukrainian lovely people who actually help out with the hub, which helps people with advice on housing and all sorts of legal matters and what have you. And of course, we're thanks to, where's Philip? We're actually also helping to promote the D2 bus. By supporting the new services that go on. He's known as Mr. Bus in the council. And the next one is, the Safer School Streets campaign, which you'll be seeing later this year, which is going to make it a lot safer for school children to move around the town when they're going to and from school. And it should be a much healthier way for them to travel to. Our Green and Healthy Future program that I've mentioned, which is something we're very proud of, resurrecting the working fountain in the town, and the conserving energy workshops, where we offer advice on all sorts of things like retrofitting houses, anything which is going to be conserving energy. So on the next slide, please. The Frome Buskers is one of the many events that we've facilitated and supported in the town. And of course, that's mainly the college students who come out to practice all their music. And it gives us a wonderful day in the town with lots of music, supporting these young people. And it adds to all that creativity that we're known for. And it's just a wonderful day. It was a fantastic buzz in the town when they were out last week. The Queen's Jubilee celebrations, which was a wonderful day, actually in the old showfield around the Blossom Circle. And it was a great fun day for families, I think, that most people enjoyed. And we had a lot of feedback on it afterwards. It was great. And the Wassail event in Waylands. And of course, there are many more. This is just a snapshot of some of the things we do. So how do we make ourselves accountable? Because that's very important. How do we make ourselves accountable to you? What we do, of course, is we open our doors every month at the monthly council meeting, to which you are all welcome. We would love to see more of you here. It's, we hope, a very friendly, open and welcoming meeting, which is done in a very informal way, with just tables scattered around, a few councillors on each one, public to join us. So it's a very easygoing atmosphere in here. And I would encourage as many of you as possible to come along to those monthly meetings. As well as this, of course, we also facilitate the public engagement meetings, which we often have, which were opportunities for us to discuss any issues that you are particularly concerned about. Some this year have been on the football club when we started working on that, trying to bring about the Community Benefit Society. We've had meetings with businesses on the town centre, and a big planning meeting when Selwood Garden Community came up for discussion. So whenever possible, and we hope to have more of these in the future, we will engage the town as much as we possibly can, because it's very important for us to hear your views. I mean, you've elected us, so very important that we actually make sure that we're working in line with your thinking. And of course, on top of that, we are all, each one of us, each of the 17 of us, are all ward councillors. We each are responsible for our wards and often engage with residents by email or in person. And we're always ready to take up any issues that you bring to us and happy to do whatever we can to resolve those things. In fact, we'll often be seen fighting with you. I find that we've done that in the past, fighting to preserve green spaces and any other local issues that you bring to us. Next slide, please. So, as we come to the end of this first year, what we must do is look ahead to keep on moving us forward. So what does that mean? It means that there will be new roles for some of the councillors. I'm actually stepping down this year. There will be a new leader. I'm not stepping down from the council, just as leader. There will be a new mayor and a few other positions that will change this year. But we will be continuing to support public engagement as much as we possibly can. There will be a regular review of our strategy. We said when we put our strategy out initially that it would only cover the first year or two, and then we'll review it because things change. We may well have completed some of the work we started. So we're constantly looking at adding new things that may become topical things to work on. And we're always listening out and looking for new ideas. So if there's anything you think we should be working on, we'd always be very pleased to hear that. We're also looking forward to working with Unitary. This is a brand new relationship for us. We've spent years working with Mendip, and now we're going to be looking forward to working with Somerset. We're already starting that work. We've already had some success building those relationships, and we are very keen to make sure we continue to do that. And we want to develop a smarter town in every sense of the word, not only in making it cleaner, but actually looking at supporting all the businesses, supporting all the arts, turning us into something which is a more cohesive unit. So that will be very much a priority for us going forward. And the last is leader. I would like to say it's been challenging, stimulating, exciting, enjoyable, all those things. But it's in no small part, I must say, due to the skills, enthusiasm and knowledge of the council staff. So my thanks to all of you. You are an amazing team. We couldn't do this without you. We really appreciate and value all your skills and everything else that you bring to this partnership. So a huge thank you to all. And of course, it's also due to the unwavering dedication, creativity, and commitment of my councillor colleagues. This town is absolutely extraordinary in its uniqueness. We are blessed with many independent shops, a myriad of good pubs and restaurants, and some wonderful venues for music, drama, theatre, and film. And Frome is also a very caring town. We know that. We know how generous people are. You only really have to look at the number of community groups working in the town to know that that's absolutely true. Like Fair Frome, Active and in Touch, Purple Elephant, and dozens more. And I'm very, very proud to be a part of that. In my 4 years as a councillor, I've been deputy mayor, deputy leader, and leader. And I genuinely believe that we are so fortunate to have a totally independent council that is free to be bold and creative and to focus on what's best for Frome. I shall be continuing my work as a councillor for the next 4 years, and I'm really looking forward to that. But all that remains for me to say is a big thank you again to council staff, to my fellow councillors, and to thank you, the people of Frome, for everything you are and everything you offer. We love your support, so thank you. And I look forward to continuing to serve you. In the meantime, I sincerely wish my successor, whoever that may be, every success. And I look forward to working alongside you, whoever you are, as we move into the new year of exciting times and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anita. Wow, it's quite a breathtaking ride through everything that's gone on in this last year. So thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is questions and comments from the public and from councillors. Do I have any questions tabled? Paul.
Yes, there's a question from Elmer and Lucia from Whole Foods, and I'll read out the question. Can we have assurance that there will be a specific public meeting to discuss the council's plan for their net zero policies, including concerns about any possible low traffic neighbourhoods and 15-minute cities? As a business owner in the town, they have concerns about these proposals and they need to be discussed with everyone involved.
Hello, Elmer and Lucia. I saw you come in. Hi. Thanks for the question. The short answer is yes. We've agreed to host a town meeting about 15-minute cities as soon as possible. And to that meeting, all interested parties will be invited. And during that meeting, we'll open the discussion around what those issues might mean for Frome, looking at potential challenges and opportunities therein. Does that satisfy your question? Thank you. Unlikely to include politicians at this stage, Elmer. Well, if it's a public meeting, it would be a public meeting. So, yeah. Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Mel.
Thanks to Anita for a comprehensive and optimistic view of the world. One or two things that perhaps we haven't quite managed, and it's not to do necessarily with this administration. Well, some years ago, we actually pressed both Mendip and the county put more crossings in the main road in the town centre. And some of you may remember we were within 48 hours of getting 2 courtesy crossings, and actually the pavements had dropped for that purpose when the county highways lost their nerve and said no. So I'm hoping that, and this is in the form of a question, that next year we actually make a bigger and better and bolder effort to try and make sure that old people, people with prams, people who are disabled can actually cross the road in some kind of safety, because I think it's a real detriment to the town that we haven't solved that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mel. Alison, yes.
Thank you. This is just because this follows on from Mel's comment. I'm a committee member of the Keyford Area Neighbourhood Group. We just changed the name slightly to include people from the wider area. And we're very concerned about traffic through Keyford, about the pollution it's causing and about the risk to the many children who use the street. And so we've come up with it, we commissioned a report and we've come up with a whole series of suggestions, but we felt strongly at the meeting that we had on the 30th of March last week, that should be part of a town-wide approach, because any changes we press for in Keyford are then going to have effects on the Butts and Lots Hill. So we're really keen in the coming year to see the town council lead on a process of looking at traffic routes.
Noted. Thank you very much, Alison. Fiona, behind you.
Just as
Oh,
a,
hang on a second, Fiona. Did Steve want to come back on that point? Yeah.
Sorry, Alison. We have commissioned a group within the council to look at movement, traffic movement around the town. We had a meeting about 3 weeks ago. I'll contact you afterwards because it'd be good to get, if you've already done, one of the things we were talking about was engagement, talking to local communities. So it'd be great to understand some of the information that you've got, and we can feed that in and we can feed back to you.
can I just also add into that, we've also been doing a local cycling and walking infrastructure plan together with Somerset County Council, and that is coming to our council meeting in April, whatever the date of that is, so in a couple of weeks' time. So if you have, it would be really great if you could come along to that, and it will be released prior to, a week before, a shortened version, I think, because I think the original is quite chunky, but please do, let us know your thoughts on that. But that includes the marketplace crossing as well, and lots of drop curbs for accessibility.
Thank you, Fiona. Do we have a Julian Quayle in the audience? Julian, I think you had a question.
Well, I had three actually.
Okay.
I'm new to town, and therefore I see Frome in a rather fresh way. Perhaps people who've been here a long time may not notice. And what I do notice is that, having arrived at Christmas, many of the streets of Frome are very, very dark, and trying to get to the railway station from Cheese and Grain area, you go through Cheap Street, which is extremely dark, and then you go up Vicarage Road Street, which is also very, very dark, and also very, very slippery, and any amount of dog mess. And I've read of people slipping and breaking limbs in Cheap Street, or even putting their ankle down the gully. So my question to the town council is there any short-term plan to increase the lighting in central Cheap Street and in central Vicarage Road Street, and to remove the accumulated leaves that accumulate during the autumn months, or this winter months, and to educate the local populace to not leave dog mess around the place for people to slip on? Thank you.
Yes, I think there are areas that we share concerns for. Nick Dove is well placed to answer that.
Yeah, well, welcome to Frome, first of all. Yeah, we had a problem in Cheap Street. There were contractors working on buildings locally, which meant that we lost some of the lighting there. It was reported as soon as we knew that it happened. The poor lady who fell, sadly, did get quite badly injured, but she's now, I understand, okay. The issue around the mess, if you can call it that, which is not just leaves and dog mess, but other litter, is one that is really frustrating. We don't have a contract at the moment with the street cleaners, if you like. It was a Mendip district responsibility, and they employed contractors called ID Verdi to deliver that service. It's one of the things that Anita mentioned in her presentation, that we are looking at the possibility, subject to resourcing and so on, for us to take that kind of service into town, so into our responsibility, so we can actually be responsible for it. To me, it's absolutely nonsensical. We do not have responsibility for directly keeping our streets clean, well lit and safe for people. So thank you for your comments. It's something we're working to do.
That helpful, Julian? Thank you. And you can always follow up on those questions with Nick, and follow up how we're doing with the new Somerset Council. Thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments from councillors or residents? Yes. Oh, do you need the microphone?
just worrying about banks closing and the still empty shops. And, you know, what's the future? Do you know?
Well, that's a big question. Again, one which Frome Town Council has little control over, but I think Anita would have a good answer for you there.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually at a meeting recently with someone who works with Adventure. And they're someone who works with Adventure. And they're already talking about what can be done for small businesses, particularly. Excuse me. About maybe looking at the possibility of creating a hub. Excuse me. But I can promise you it's actually been noted and it is being worked on. Okay.
To save Anita's breath, can somebody just add to that? Yeah.
It's contrary to popular belief. We don't own the shops. We don't have any say over who occupies them. They're all private sector businesses. The banks, it's something we have to face because the banks are not coming back. You know, we're finished with banks in that form now, and so we need to accept that and to find new and future uses for the banks that are going to be empty soon, and for the ones that are also going to be the others that are also going to be empty. So we need to think about what the implications are, particularly for those people who use cash, but also what we can do in town. The empty shops, you're quite right. There's quite a lot of empty shops at the moment. I suspect most of them will get filled. It's usually the landlords holding things up. There's nearly always people who are prepared to have a go and open new shops, and that's been the history. Okay, times are a bit more difficult now, so we're not quite sure of that. But again, if you read social media, they think it's the town council that's actually preventing these shops from being let, and we don't have any say over it. You know? So we just need to make sure that the people understand that. Thank you.
And if I can just add to that, I'm part of a council group that's looking at the town centre and how we can increase footfall and do more work to reopen or keep open premises and bring people in. Yeah, it's alarming. If you look at the Boycross space, there's a NatWest Bank, HSBC are closing. There's rumours that Barclays are not taking any new customers. That's not a good sign, and possibly TSB. And the old Shoe Zone building. Those are 5 of the best buildings in the centre of Frome that are currently all going to be possibly empty soon. If somebody's got £250 million, we could buy them, and somebody came up with the running costs, that would be even better. But it's something we're actively looking at with town centre working groups. There are new people who moved into town and bought properties who've got fresh ideas and thoughts. And I think one of the things we're looking at is an understanding that town centres are no longer places where people come in to conduct business. They come in to socialise and spend time. So you'll see on social media people moaning about more and more coffee shops, etc. But that's how people live. You know, when I go away anywhere, I want to go somewhere, something to eat, something to drink. So yeah, we see that, and we're sad it's happening, but we're desperately trying to find ways to encourage new innovation, new business, and new occupation of buildings that were traditionally used for something else. So thank you.
Thank you for the question, and thanks Mel and Nick for the responses. Any other questions or observations? Okay, well then the next couple of items, we've got some roller coaster rides through some of the big things that have happened for some of our groups this year and some of the money that we've been spending. First of all, we've got a presentation about our public people's budget events and the recipients that received some of that money across 22 and 23. And I think that's in the form of a short. Sue, please go ahead.
Hello.
I'm sure it's turned on. Yeah, it is.
Right up to my nose. Okay. Okay, so thanks to funding from Frome Town Council and the National Lottery Awards for All programme, we were able to run Frome Children's Festival last year in the summer. We designed the event together with children and young people and focused on making it fully accessible for people with additional needs and disabilities. As well as choosing which activities would be at the festival, young people also helped to design the publicity and the programme. We used widget symbols, which will be on the next slide. If it's going to come along, which give a clear visual indication of what each activity is, as well as essential things like where the toilets are.
The poster and programme were designed in line with Royal National Institute for the Blind guidance so that it was easy to read, and we included British Sign Language in our promotional video with an interpreter available on the day to support people. The festival offered over 30 different activities and types of entertainment for families, including theatre, forest school, storytelling, 2 zip wires across the river, one of which was fully accessible, arts and crafts, music, magic and sports, and the first appearance of Frome's very own ride on Dragon. It was free to attend to make sure that everyone could come along, and we personally invited all the families that we support. We had 2 support workers on hand throughout the day who helped families with additional needs so that they could get fully involved. From the beginning of the year, we worked with young people with additional needs from Critchell School, the Pod, Open Storytellers and the Somerset Parent Carer Forum to make sure that the festival would work for them. They designed T-shirts for staff and volunteers, ran some of the activities on the day, helped us sort out queue management with fast passes for those who can't deal with queuing, helped us, and carried out an evaluation after the event so that we can improve it for future years. We'll carry forward all the accessibility measures to future events and have introduced widget signs at some of our other activities. We estimate that around 3,000 people came along, and we recognise many of the families that we regularly support. We don't get a load of feedback, but one mum said, "You guys really do put on an amazing event and something Frome should be proud of." To us, the Children's Festival is more than just a community event. It's a rare opportunity for people from all backgrounds to come together and have fun with no stigma or expectations, where everyone is welcome and enabled to take part, where there is no judgment, but there is support, and an event that is truly affordable. Our vision is for it to become an event designed and delivered by young people, which we enable. We've already started designing this year's event together with young people, and we're very excited about it. Next year will be our 10th anniversary, and we hope that the local community will come together to support us in its delivery. Thanks very much to Frome Town Council.
Thank you, Sue. Sue from Purple Elephant. Thank you very much, Sue. And next we have Alison Murdoch, who's going to be talking about the Kindness Festival.
Hello. Is that working? Okay. Like Sue here, hugely grateful for your support in the last year to run the second Frome Kindness Festival. Big question, why have a Kindness Festival? 3 proposals from us. Kindness is something everybody understands and is capable of. It's something that really brings people together. It's a real enabler. It has a scientifically proven effect on the person, not only who offers the kindness and receives it, but also on the observer. So the more kindness we have in the town, the more there will be. It ripples out. And it's great for our mental and physical health, for social cohesion and the general happiness and well-being of our town. And we had the first annual Frome Kindness Lecture as part of this year's festival. Professor Robin Banerjee is one of the top people in the world on the subject. And he said, "We neglect kindness at our peril. It is the glue that binds communities together." And this, if this intrigues you, we're actually going to have a re-screening of his talk because people found it so powerful. They were talking here in the council chamber for half an hour afterwards. And we were sorry that councillors and staff weren't able to attend that night, and you're all going to get invitations because we think it should start a whole debate in the town about the importance of kindness and refueling kindness. I mean, this room is full of kind people, but we take it for granted. And there's other people who don't get opportunities to express their kindness, and sometimes we work the kindness out of people. So it isn't just a fluffy subject. As another of our speakers said, kindness has an image problem, and we want to change that. So who took part? We had over 3,000 participants at events, school pupils, street events. Over 1,000 people presented, performed and led over 100, I mean, presented, performed and led events. We had over 75 volunteers. All the names are up on our website now. 16 partner organisations, 16 local business supporters. We were in 9 venues and we went into 8 of the local schools. And we also had something called the Frome Kindness Challenge, which we want to build on. And this is where we challenged people to do their own acts of kindness. And we actually simply don't know how many of them took place, but we keep getting feedback about things that happened. How is it funded? These figures are provisional because we haven't got a treasurer at the moment. So if anybody in the room feels they could help with that, that would be fantastic. As you can see, the people's budget was absolutely critical for us. That paid for 2 festival coordinators. For the first time, we took money out of ticket sales, so it's sort of Robin Hood approach. Give anything upwards of £1 to attend an event costs, other grants, cash donations, and Shape Mendip. Preparations. Now, I've put this in because the preparations are a huge part of the festival. It starts in the autumn, and we say simply thinking about the Kindness Festival is the festival. You know, simply wanting to get involved. More photographs, thank you. What actually happened during the week? Well, this is just the main events. There were more things than this, and of course you can't take this in. So what I'm going to do is just divide them into 3 sections. So the first one is celebrating kindness. And we did that all kinds of ways. We had events at the Independent, we commissioned a flash mob, we had decorations throughout the town. It was something really fun for all different ages. Our mayor spoke at an immersive gala screening of Amelie, which raised money for the whole event. Had students from Frome College in on the catering. This was a creative event, making postcards to welcome refugees. We had music and things like that. Second theme, practicing kindness. So all sorts of things, gifts for people who in their food parcels. This is us in the Asda car park where we spoke to over 200 people in a day, having a clothes swap, working with Adventure, creating joint works of art, things in the cafes. Couldn't resist the picture at the bottom right. Thank you. And then finally, or not lastly, it's not lastly, the first, very important of the third is exploring kindness. So the annual kindness lecture, things with children, painting rocks, talking to kids about kindness in that sort of a way. We had Claudia Hammond from Radio 4 here, supported by Hunting Raven. We had an interfaith event at the Good Heart. So what were the outcomes and the impact? Positive mental health, uplift after the winter. We actually got snow during the week, so it was still the winter really. Multiple acts of kindness and generosity. One of my favorite stories is 2 people I met the week after who said, didn't have time to come, but I did kind things because it was the Kindness Festival. We've no idea how much of that there was. Improved visibility and appreciation for kindness. Lots of discussions and sharing with people you didn't know, particularly on the street. We had a caravan of kindness outside the library. Community building arts and creativity projects. New and ongoing connections with local schools. We did 19 different workshops and presentations in school assemblies. It further enhanced the reputation of Frome. Visitors to the town said, wow, Frome is really amazing, and could we do something like this in our own town? And lots of ideas and suggestions for future kindness work, which I'm really looking forward to taking forward with the council. So what happens next? Follow-up discussions, events and activities. The school programme we want to do all around the year, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback about that. The idea of actually creating our own caravan of kindness, like a mini expo that we could take to schools and festivals. A third Frome Kindness Festival next year, but that will be subject to funding. Obviously, we're disappointed that the people's budget doesn't exist this coming year, and we hope there'll be other ways to get support from the town. And encouraging other towns to host kindness festivals. We've already got some takers in London and doing some replication work around that. So there was comment here about being a smart town. We think kindness is a really cutting edge way to be smart. And there was also an invitation for new ideas. Kindness may seem like a very old idea, but actually the weight of scientific research around it also makes it a new idea, which we hope the town will embrace. There's a big campaign called Compassionate Cities, and we think Frome could maybe be the first town of kindness, and we could really work on that together. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alison. The next group is Caravan Arts, and I think they've sent a film. Is that right? We've got a short. Oh, okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is Stuart from Somerset Food.
Hello, I'm Stuart Crocker. I chair the board of Somerset food trail. Most grateful to the town council for supporting us, our trail with a grant last year of £5,000. So I'm here just to tell you briefly about the big idea behind it, about what we've achieved and where we go from here. And it'll be interspersed with a 1.5 minute brief video, which will bring all this to life. So what's the big idea? Well, essentially, as many of us will know, the predominant food system is broken. Food is produced largely with agrochemicals at an industrial scale. The food itself is commodified, largely used for, in many cases anyway, sorry, you can't hear? Bigger. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I won't start again. A lot of the food is and highly processed, and as we all know, can be very bad for our health. We have very, very poor diet in this country, large scale obesity, and so we're destroying wildlife, destroying the environment, burning up lots of carbon, and so on. The idea behind the food trail is to turn that on its head, to recognize that actually around Frome, across Somerset, across the country, actually, there are many fine examples of people doing exactly the opposite and doing the right thing. Farmers and growers producing food in harmony with nature, selling their food locally to benefit the local population, keeping the money within the local population rather than seeing it go further afield. Growing food, therefore, which actually sequesters carbon, reduces the carbon emissions, produces a healthy diet, healthy communities. So the idea behind the food trail is to, particularly across Somerset, but here we are in Frome, to identify many of those enterprises and encourage more people to take an interest in how their food is produced, to discover for themselves the multiple benefit of sustainably produced food, to find out where they can purchase the food through retail outlets, hospitality outlets, and so on, how indeed they can grow more food sustainably themselves through regenerative agriculture. So what we've done is to create across Mendip, this is last year, Mendip, South Somerset, and Sedgemoor, we had 12 clusters, of which Frome was one, which together attracted 198 enterprises, to which 8,500 people visited, 65,000 people were reached online. And as a consequence, many people now were not only influenced themselves positively about how we can all be part of a solution for a more sustainable future. Many businesses benefited because of the extra footfall, the income that they generated locally. So behind all this is the idea of building up demand for more sustainably produced foods. We can all be part of the solution if we understand it better and get behind it. And I'd like to bring that to life now in this video. So sit back and enjoy 1.5 minutes, which actually encapsulates what I've just said, I hope, in a very beautiful way.
Thank you very much. So I think it's brilliant. I can say that because, of course, I didn't produce it myself. So I can say about my colleagues producing such a wonderful synopsis of what the food trail is all about. So what about this coming year? Well, in July, from the 14th of July to the 30th, we're running another Somerset food trail. It'll be on a smaller scale, frankly, than last year, because last year we were fortunate to have the grant from Frome Town Council and other sources across Mendip, from Sedgemoor, and also from South Somerset. But of course, as we all know, those councillors no longer exist. So we actually had a significant amount of funding last year, none this year so far, well, despite our best endeavours to raise money from other sources. So we're having to run it on a very lean basis. Despite that, we've had over 100 farms, farmers, growers, food businesses register to take part in this year's food trail, which we're thrilled about. But it'll all be done online rather than through a printed publication as it was last year. It's being coordinated this year by Hugh Thomas on behalf of the Frome Food Network. And so there'll be a number of activities in Frome, which we're just pulling together the recipients now, and we'll curate and certainly publicise all of them through social media. That'll be the way we'll do it this year. So I hope very much you'll all wish to participate and join in the fun and be part of the solution of a sustainable food future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stuart. That was very informative. And then finally, I think we have Caravan Arts, and that's a video.
Hello everyone, it's Sarah Phillips here from Caravan Arts. Sorry I can't be with you. I'm here to tell you about our Gatherings film screening, which took place last summer as part of the People's Budget. The event was on the 24th of August, which was Ukraine National Day. For many of our guests, this was the first event they had been to since arriving in this country fleeing war. The afternoon was aimed at bringing together refugees with local families to offer a warm welcome and to help with community building. We promoted it locally through refugee groups, through Fair Frome and Purple Elephant, and it proved a good decision not to open it out further to a wider audience. We had just the right number of people to keep it a relaxed, comfortable and safe space for these groups, and I was very grateful to have help from my friend Anna with translating the flyers. We had a majority of Ukrainian refugees with their host families, but we were very happy to welcome people from all over: Armenia, Syria, Turkey, Southeast Asia and British. People of all ages and backgrounds. The day went really well. We were very lucky with the weather. People could sit outside all afternoon drinking tea, chatting. Myself and Jess Frankham with the production team, we programmed a range of activities across the different spaces of the Silk Mill. This included the main room as a playroom, which was particularly great for the older children who could really own the space. We had circus games, silent disco, face painting, festival headwear, creative workshops at the Caravan all day. We designed the crafts for all age groups so people could really explore sensory materials with activities based around nature and well-being, which we felt would be effective in communicating across cultures and language barriers. We worked with some wonderful local freelance creative practitioners, including Abby, who did the drumming, which was a huge hit. Some of these stepped in right at the last minute and really held the space. We had wonderful music all afternoon with harp and guitar, which really relaxed everybody. And we worked with a brilliant team of volunteers who supported everyone. People seemed to really engage. There was a lovely buzz and a great atmosphere all day. In the afternoon, we put on the Pixar shorts for people to watch, which was for children, but also for adults to enjoy. And we had brought in some wonderful Turkish caterers who made free food for everyone, vegetarian, nutritious and delicious, which created a lovely moment of collective eating and coming together. And the lemon drizzle cake afterwards was very popular. After dinner, we lit a fire as a closing ritual, which brought people together to reflect, share conversations and emotions, as it had been a difficult day for many, and some of our Ukrainian guests chose their favourite songs to mark their National Day. Pleased to say we had over 70 attendees, which was what we had hoped for. We'd worked with some wonderful local artists and welcomed many different communities. It felt a genuinely intergenerational and intercultural afternoon, with kids from different backgrounds playing in the same space, Ukraine families connecting with each other in support, and everyone gathering to share stories and experiences. It was a good sign that people chose to stay for the whole event, and the afternoon included important moments of celebration, connection, reflection and ritual. We felt we were really able to welcome and celebrate our communities as we had hoped for, particularly those fleeing the trauma of war. So just to finish off, I wanted to share some feedback from the event, which I'll leave up on the screen, but a huge thanks to everyone who attended and supported gatherings.
Thank you. I know they're not here, but a little round of applause anyway. Thank you. And just a reminder that that was people's budget spending. So that was stuff that was voted on by people who took the time to think about what projects they wanted to receive funding from the Town Council's people's budget. So thanks to everybody for the work. And our next item is looking at the grant recipients over the last year. And this is a video compilation showing literally where our money has been spent. Thank you. And I think in that round of applause is, you know, a lot of thanks to the councillors and the staff and everyone who helps shape and work out how that funding is going to go and help all these projects that are going on across our town. Now, the next presenter, please. I think that's me. I shall just relocate myself. And I'm just going to give you a very quick whiz. A very quick whiz through some of the highlights. They've been mostly highlights of my year as mayor. Most of you know what a shy and retiring person I am, naturally. So you can imagine it's been a very tough one for me. So many public engagements, so much to do. I've really struggled. But honestly, it's been a real privilege to have an insight into this town that I think only the role of mayor can give, the people that you meet and the things that you see along the way. And it's engendered an enormous amount of pride in everything that goes on, and to see the work that people are doing across the town in all sorts of areas, and to be even just a small part of that has been amazing. That's not to say that it is not at times random and surreal, like the time I was asked if I could arrest a drug dealer who had broken into one of my constituents' windows, to which I explained that I'm not the mayor of Gotham and currently did not have arresting powers. But there's a lot of fun and there's a huge variety of stuff going on. But let's start at the beginning of my year. If I can have my first slide, please. The big man, Rasputin, what can I say? This was my introduction, little and large, as you might say. The pendant on him was a giant almost an albatross around my neck when I first started wearing it, but it was brilliant to hand over from him, and literally big boots to fill. So I knew that I had a big year ahead. I'd really enjoyed being deputy to Andy's mayor because it was such a fun year. And it was great to watch how well he connected with the disparate groups of Frome and people who wouldn't normally get involved in things like, you know, relating to the town council and getting involved in seeing what we're doing and how things work. And Andy did a really good job of bringing in loads of new supporters and across demographics that we wouldn't normally see getting involved with us. So as well as having a lot of fun, I just wanted to say thank you to him for handing over these chains, or rather letting me drag them from his neck. It's been such a range of events over the years, so it's hard to narrow it down. But to kind of broadly group them somehow, you've got your big key town events, you know, the ones that really include everybody and the ones that everyone comes out for and the ones that are going to be significant, you know, for a large proportion of the town. And boy, did I crop a couple of, you know, really big ones in my year, of course, straight into the Jubilee, which was my very first engagement. And that was a beautiful day in the meadow, and everyone's in the show field, and everyone turned out, and we were gifted a beautiful stone. I think the picture of that is there. And, you know, people were having picnics, and we had our very own royalty in the shape of Cheryl Sprinkler, who I'm sure on a fair few occasions on that day did, in fact, get mistaken for the Queen. And I don't think she was at all upset by that. A very regal presence she made during the day. And on that royal note, we did also have later on in the year the death of the monarch. And, you know, whilst there are definitely disparate views across the town, I think that was an historic experience for most of us. You know, most people alive now haven't experienced anything like that in their lifetime. So to be part of something that is going to be written about in the history books was very definitely a privilege. We had the marvellous Paul McCartney event as well, at which the town stood still. And whilst I was queuing in the car park, people were coming with reports of cars being dumped in the middle of town as people legged it to get to the queue as quickly as they possibly could. And the news reporters were coming down. And it was the whole day made it to the national press. And I think, you know, for that one day at least, it certainly put Frome on the pop map. And it really was a special occasion. Carnival is another big one during the year as well, and a lot of work goes into that. And there's something very special about leading that parade through the town, starting at one side of town, coming right through to the other, crowds adorning the streets. You really can imagine what royalty feels like when they're walking through crowds and crowds of people. And there's also the fun day part of that as well, which is one of those little slightly more surreal, quirky Frome things as well. And I went into that thinking, gosh, maybe I'm going to have to, you know, judge a granny or judge a dog or something. And it turned out I had to judge babies. You know, so, you know, you never want to tell anybody that their baby's not quite as pretty as any of the other babies, but somehow I blagged my way around that one. Then, yeah, a couple of personal highlights, you know, things that I didn't expect to do, like run 5K 2 days before Christmas or 2 weeks before Christmas with not an awful lot of preparation. So you can see I was slightly scared at the beginning and very, very relieved at the end. And whereas I think most of my running colleagues managed that in about 20 minutes, I think I came in at just under an hour, which for me was pretty good going. I rode the dragon. I rode the actual dragon. Only in Frome as mayor do you get to ride a dragon, whose name I believe is Drusilla. So am I right? And she came out for the Children's Festival. And when I was asked to wear a top hat and sit on a dragon, I of course said, why, yes. Why would I not want to do that? We've talked a bit about our experiences this year with our Ukrainian guests, and that's been really significant in my year. This here is a picture of the picnic that we held in Rodham Meadow, which was not just a chance for me to get to know some of the families that are now living here in Frome, but for them to get to know each other in a really informal, summery, picnicky, games type of way. You know, those are the universal languages. We had things to drink, we had things to eat, and there was music. So it's a really great summer opportunity to bring everyone together. And there've been a few of those where we've been able to celebrate, you know, Ukrainian culture in the town, where we've had get-togethers with, you know, a number of people from the different communities, to the point where we now have a couple of our Ukrainian colleagues working here with us at Frome Town Council, which is, you know, a really good sign of how embedded people are becoming. And then, of course, we had the wassail. It doesn't get more Somerset or more Frome than dancing around apple trees in a flower crown, drinking cider and then pouring it on apples with toast hanging off of them. So, you know, luckily the rain stayed off on that day. The cider was local. The trees are going to be fruiting this year for our communities to go and pick their own fruit from. So that was a really special moment as well. But I think underpinning all of these events, really, and all of the experience of being mayor, the things that really bring you to the heart and soul of the town. And that, for me, is really what the essence of this year has been about. We've looked already at some of the amazing work that goes on with our community groups and our charities and some of the organisations that we have. And just seeing the work that goes on across the town, the effort that people put in, you know, for love, usually not money, the connections that are made, the support that is offered, and, you know, the goodwill that is out there, and the eagerness that people have to look after their communities and look out for their neighbours. We've dragged some of that through the COVID years with us, and, you know, being part of the Kindness Festival as well, really brought to life how connected we are and how much more connected we need to be to keep our communities strong and resilient and healthy. We have our quirky Frome stuff as well. We have the Valentine's lamp and the blessing of the well, which is also quite early on in the mayor's agenda, which is a lovely day, even though I was quite shell-shocked at that point. And there's a picture of me standing next to the local reverend looking at flowers and thinking, what am I actually supposed to be doing here, apart from just saying nice flowers, reverend, which I did, obviously. Frome Buskers we've already talked about. We've also had recently the Black Swan Young Arts Festival, and to me both of those were really excellent examples of what a creative and you know, innovative and talented bunch of young people we have coming up through this town. Amazing musicians, incredible artists, and it's a real privilege to bear witness to some of that and watching some of that talent develop and be excited about where it's going to go in the future. So looking at the art exhibition, you know, there was a toddler with a sketch drawing, and he put it, the price valued it at £450. And I thought, well, you'll go far, young man. At that point, it didn't have a sold sticker on it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it had before the evening was out. The flash mob that took place in the Kindness Festival as well was another highlight of that time of year. There is nothing quite like dancing to Harry Styles at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, whether you are a fan of Harry Styles or not. Okay, my next slide, I think. So in summing up, again, I want to reflect also on what Anita said about all of this being possible thanks to the many amazing councillors that work with me and also our staff team. I actually asked for a staff photo, but apparently one doesn't exist. So luckily, somebody had the foresight way back then to capture what looks like a Christmas Zoom party. So obviously we were doing it all right, not like certain other seats of power in the country, shall we say. So I do want to say a huge thank you to all of those people, and especially Laura, who isn't here this evening. On a day-to-day basis, Laura does diary management, admin management, invitation management, yes, no's, covers my back, tells me when I need to do things. And she's been absolutely brilliant at doing that. So if you're listening online, Laura, thank you very much. And then finally, just remains for me to hand over and say, well, not hand over quite yet, but your upcoming mayor, Philip Campagna, who's sitting in the back here, there. I want to say thank you for all of your support through this year as Deputy Mayor. You've been amazing, not least in the bakery department. So long may that continue. I want to wish you good luck for your term. I've got 2 more council meetings to go, so you've still got time to duck out if you wish. And I've got one final message for you, which is one of the things you'll get invited to as a mayor is a various range of even songs at Wells Cathedral, which are all beautiful experiences, churchy or not. You've got to love a bit of high choral. The last one I went to was for the inauguration of the High Sheriff of Somerset. And I was sitting in the front with the other people wearing bling. And it wasn't until afterwards that my husband showed me a picture of this man. And apparently he'd been sitting four rows behind me. Luckily, I didn't know this at the time. Otherwise, it might have ended up in the most unladylike finale to my year as mayor. But my message, Philip, is be careful who you hang out with. Thank you all very, very much. And now I'm still on the mic. Now we've got our presentation of the Civic Awards, which are broadly chosen by me and the teams around me. And we have a few recipients here tonight. Actually, the first one isn't here tonight, but I'm going to mention him. He's already come up in the conversation this evening, and it's Reg Ling. I'm sure lots of you are familiar with Reg Ling. He's about 173 years old, and he wouldn't mind me saying that. Not only did he single-handedly rescue and restore the only remaining gas lamp in Somerset, he created the only Valentine's lamp in the world, our beautiful Valentine's lamp at the top of Catherine Hill, and it really is a beautiful thing. And every year on the 14th of February, he sets a rocket off to signal the start of the lighting ceremony. And it's only been lit on 2 other occasions apart from these, marking the death of Princess Diana and last year marking Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. I'm sure on those 2 occasions he wouldn't have been as filthy as he usually is, because he's well known for his lewd wartime poetry. That's not why I've given him this award, though. This award recognises all of his hard work in the upkeep of the Valentine's lamp and the joy that it brings every year to see it alight and to see Reg and hear Reg. And he's still climbing up that ladder, and he really shouldn't be. So I think we've got an award for him and some flowers for him. And I'm sure you'll all welcome me in passing on our huge thanks and hoping that he continues. Second on the awards list is the Frome Shed. And with this award, I wanted to recognise the team's commitment to and the incredible dedication of the shed and all the opportunities that they provide to the people of Frome. You've probably heard of the women's shed and the men's shed, and they make and mend things together, and they run a lot of their own projects, mainly for use in the community, and they use their skills for making things like bird boxes, community games, and they're currently working on the Coronation Flag project. And I think we have here picking up this award, Pam Curtis, Anne Jones and Ros Whitehouse. Congratulations. Congratulations. There you go. Thank you so much. Next here we have Tabitha Clayson. Up until recently, Tabitha has been a director of the Frome Independent Market, having spent the last 10 years creating and making the market to the institution it is. This is to recognise all of your hard work in developing and running the market over the last 10 years. That market's now become so central to part of the attraction that Frome has for bringing visitors in, and it really is a recognisable and well-known event. So we'd like to present this award to you, Tabitha. And lastly, Bob Ashford, who I know is here because I saw him sneak in earlier. Hi, Bob. After 9 years, Bob has just retired from his role as chair and trustee of Fair Frome. And having been a trustee of Fair Frome myself, I can vouch for the incredible work that he's put into that organisation. He's been with the charity since it was founded in a very, very tiny office in Palmer Street, which I think is where the very first Frome Town Council was many years ago. And now it's a huge organisation. It's grown so much under his leadership, and now runs the food bank, furniture bank, Food at 5, Holiday Hunger, Baby Bank, and so many other projects like the Christmas get together and so much other stuff that goes on under the radar that you just wouldn't even know about, but really is there and really is helping. So this award is to recognise Bob's commitment and dedication to Fair Frome and the community it serves. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you found it an entertaining and interesting evening. Thank you for coming along and sharing your stories of the year. Thank you for coming along and asking questions. I hope you'll continue to come along for the ride with us next year. I'm going to close this meeting, but you must now go downstairs and party to DJ Pete. Thank you all very much.